My name is Rachel and I'm 32 years old. Family has always been everything to me, especially my relationship with my parents. My younger sister Jessica, though, has harbored jealousy issues since we were kids. I never thought it would escalate to what happened at our parents' 35th anniversary celebration last summer. The tension between us had been building for years, but nothing prepared me for the moment when my 7-year-old nephew Tyler deliberately poured his soda all over my lap and shouted those hurtful words. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like and subscribe, and let me know where you're watching from before I tell you about the family drama that changed everything. Growing up in Portland with my parents Maria and John was mostly a happy childhood. As the older sister, I often helped take care of Jessica, who was 4 years younger than me. From the beginning, our personalities were different. I was organized, responsible, and achievement-oriented, while Jessica was more free-spirited, but also prone to emotional outbursts. Our parents, Maria and John, did their best to balance attention between both daughters. Mom worked as a nurse at the local hospital, pulling long shifts, but always making time for school events and family dinners. Dad ran a small graphic design business from our home, which later inspired my own career path. They were loving parents who wanted the best for both of us, but Jessica never seemed to feel she got enough of their attention or approval. Rachel is so perfect. She would complain even when we were small. Everyone loves Rachel more. This wasn't true, of course. Our parents loved us equally. But Jessica created this narrative in her mind and held on to it tightly as we grew up. In school, I thrived academically and socially. I participated in art clubs and student government, eventually earning a scholarship to attend college for graphic design. Jessica struggled with classes, frequently got into arguments with teachers, and bounced between friend groups. While I tried to help her with homework or social advice, she usually pushed me away, accusing me of showing off or trying to make her look bad by comparison. "Stop trying to fix me," she'd snap whenever I offered help. Not everyone can be precious Rachel. The gap between us widened after high school. I moved away for college, but stayed in close contact with my parents, especially my father, who mentored me in design skills. We would talk for hours about color theory, typography, and client relationships. These conversations strengthened our bond, but seemed to intensify Jessica's resentment. After graduation, I established myself as a freelance graphic designer and eventually built a small but successful business with steady clients. Jessica dropped out of community college twice and cycled through retail jobs, never sticking with anything long enough to build a career. She blamed external factors for every setback: difficult bosses, unfair professors, or unsupportive family. One pattern became particularly troubling: Jessica creating drama at family events to center attention on herself. My college graduation dinner was interrupted by her sudden announcement that she'd eloped with a boyfriend no one had met. At my grandfather's 75th birthday, she showed up 4 hours late, causing everyone to worry, then made a scene about not being properly welcomed when she arrived. My father's retirement party was overshadowed by her pregnancy announcement, which she later admitted she had planned specifically for that day, so everyone would have something to really celebrate. Jessica married Brian when she was 25. He seemed kind, but passive, unwilling or unable to address Jessica's behavior. Their son Tyler came along a year later, becoming the first grandchild in our family. My parents were overjoyed and naturally showered attention on their grandson, which initially seemed to satisfy Jessica's need for family focus. But as Tyler grew, I noticed something disturbing. Jessica was poisoning him against me. If I brought him birthday presents, she would tell him they weren't as good as what she would have bought. When I offered to babysit, she would tell Tyler within my hearing, "Aunt Rachel probably won't play with you much, but we have no other options." At family gatherings, she would physically position herself between Tyler and me if we started having fun together. "Don't bother Aunt Rachel," she would say loudly. "She thinks she's too good for silly games." Despite these obstacles, I tried to build a relationship with my nephew. Tyler was a bright, energetic boy who loved dinosaurs and building blocks. When Jessica wasn't interfering, we got along well. I'd bring him books about dinosaurs and listen to his detailed explanations of why Triceratops was superior to Stegosaurus. These moments were precious, but increasingly rare as Jessica's control tightened. By the time my parents' 35th anniversary approached, I had been dating Michael for nearly 2 years. He was a software engineer who worked remotely, which allowed him to travel with me to family events. Michael had witnessed Jessica's behavior several times and couldn't understand why our parents didn't address it more directly. They just want peace, I explained, and they're worried about losing access to Tyler if they confront Jessica too harshly. Little did I know how this approach would backfire at the anniversary celebration that was supposed to be a joyful family milestone. The day of my parents' 35th anniversary party arrived with perfect early summer weather. I drove to their house with Michael beside me, a beautifully wrapped photo album on the back seat. For months, I had secretly collected old and new family photos, designing a chronological journey through my parents' marriage. Each page featured memories from their 3.5 decades together, with spaces for family members to write personal messages during the party. It had taken weeks to create, and I was excited to present it. "They're going to love it," Michael reassured me, squeezing my hand as we pulled into my parents' driveway. "You put so much thought into this." We arrived 2 hours early as I had promised to help with final preparations. Mom greeted us with hugs at the door, looking elegant in a blue dress she had bought specially for the occasion. "Rachel, thank goodness you're here," she said. "Your father is fighting with the string lights in the backyard. Can Michael help him while we finish the food?" The house was transformed with anniversary decorations, silver and white balloons, twinkling lights, and framed photos of my parents throughout their marriage displayed on every surface. In the kitchen, I helped Mom finish preparing trays of finger foods and arrange the anniversary cake at the center of the dining table. "Jessica's running late," Mom mentioned casually, though I detected the slight tension in her voice. "She said Tyler wasn't feeling well this morning, but they'll definitely make it." Of course she's late, I thought but didn't say. Instead, I nodded and continued arranging food platters. Extended family began arriving around 4 o'clock. My mother's sisters, Aunt Karen and Aunt Patricia, brought homemade appetizers and bottles of champagne. Dad's brother, Uncle James, and his wife came with their adult children. Cousins, family, friends, and neighbors filled the house and spilled into the backyard, where tables and chairs had been arranged under strings of lights. Aunt Karen, always perceptive, pulled me aside as I adjusted a flower arrangement. "How are things with your sister?" she asked quietly. "Your mom mentioned there's been some tension." I sighed. "Same as always. I try to keep the peace, but Jessica seems determined to see me as competition rather than family." Aunt Karen nodded knowingly. "I've watched this dynamic since you were children. Your parents always hoped she would outgrow it." She squeezed my arm. "Just remember how Jessica acts reflects on her, not you." This conversation was interrupted by a commotion at the front door. Jessica had arrived with Brian and Tyler in tow, making a loud entrance as family members turned to greet them. "The traffic was absolutely terrible," Jessica announced dramatically. "And then Tyler spilled juice all over his first outfit. I told everyone we'd be late, but no one listens to me." I watched as my parents rushed to welcome them, my father immediately swooping Tyler up for a hug, while my mother took Jessica's coat and complimented her dress. Brian stood awkwardly to the side, nodding hello to various relatives. When he caught my eye, he gave a small wave but quickly looked away when Jessica turned in his direction. Throughout the afternoon, I observed Jessica instructing Tyler to stay away from me. When the little boy naturally gravitated toward the dinosaur books I had brought him, Jessica smoothly intercepted. "Those are boring, sweetie. Why don't you play with the cousins instead?" she said, steering him toward the other children. Despite this, I focused on making the party special for my parents. The backyard looked magical as evening approached, with fairy lights twinkling above tables covered in silver and white linens. Mom's favorite flowers, white roses and blue hydrangeas, adorned each table in small crystal vases I had arranged. The food table featured photographs of my parents at significant moments in their marriage, each one carefully selected and framed. Many guests commented on the beautiful decorations and thoughtful details. "Rachel organized everything," my father said proudly to his old college friend. "She's got her dad's eye for design and her mom's attention to detail." I noticed Jessica's expression darken at this comment, but she quickly recovered when another guest asked about Tyler's upcoming school year. As more relatives arrived, the party grew livelier. Cousins I hadn't seen in years caught me up on their lives, and several mentioned how they followed my design work on social media. My cousin Emma had even hired me to create branding for her new bakery business, and she enthusiastically showed other family members the logo on her phone. Rachel's work doubled my social media following, she gushed. She really understood exactly what I needed. Michael noticed Jessica's increasingly cold demeanor and whispered a warning as he brought me a glass of wine. Your sister looks like she's about to boil over, he murmured. Maybe we should stick to the other side of the party for a while. But in a gathering this size with family flowing between the house and garden, completely avoiding Jessica proved impossible. As I helped an elderly great aunt to a comfortable seat, I overheard Jessica talking to a group of relatives. Oh, Rachel's so busy with her perfect life and perfect boyfriend, she was saying with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. Too busy for family most of the time, but she shows up to play hostess at the important parties. I pretended not to hear, but Aunt Karen had no such reservations. She joined the group and smoothly changed the subject, drawing attention to the beautiful anniversary cake and asking Jessica if Tyler was excited about the sparklers planned for later. As dinner approached, Jessica's passive-aggressive comments continued, each one just subtle enough that confronting her would make me look oversensitive. When I explained that the menu included Mom and Dad's favorite foods from significant anniversaries throughout their marriage, Jessica remarked, I guess some people have time to overthink these things when they don't have children to raise. I bit my tongue and continued helping serve food, determined not to let her spoil our parents' special day. The tension between Jessica and me simmered throughout dinner. Every time our parents received compliments on raising such wonderful daughters or comments about what a lovely family we were, Jessica would find ways to subtly undermine me. When Dad proudly mentioned my recent design award, Jessica immediately jumped in. That's nice, but speaking of achievements, did I tell everyone Tyler was selected for the advanced reading group? Only 6 kids in his class made it. When a family friend asked about my relationship with Michael, wondering if wedding bells might be in our future, Jessica interrupted before I could answer. Rachel's always been career-focused, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Not everyone prioritizes family and children like some of us. Michael squeezed my hand under the table, silently supporting me. He had witnessed this pattern before and knew how it affected me, though I tried not to show it. Inside, I was struggling. Each cutting remark felt like a small slice to my heart, not because I believed Jessica's implications that my life choices were somehow lesser, but because of the relentless negativity from someone who should love and support me. The effort of maintaining composure, of smiling through the hurt for our parents' sake, was exhausting. Maybe we should step outside for a minute, Michael whispered when he noticed my smile becoming strained after a particularly pointed comment about people who only show up for the celebrations, but not the hard parts of family life. Before I could respond, Mom stood to propose a toast to Dad, and everyone raised their glasses. After her heartfelt words about 35 years of partnership, she asked if anyone else wanted to say something. I had prepared a short speech and stood to deliver it. When I think of what makes a successful marriage, I began, I always come back to what Mom and Dad have shown us. Their love isn't just about the big moments we're celebrating today, but about the thousands of small kindnesses they've shown each other and us every day. The way Dad always brings Mom coffee in her favorite mug each morning. The way Mom still leaves little notes in Dad's lunch even though they've been together for decades. I was building to a meaningful conclusion when Jessica abruptly stood up. I think we should hear from Tyler too, she announced. After all, grandchildren are the true legacy of a long marriage. She prompted Tyler to recite a clearly rehearsed line about loving his grandparents, effectively cutting off my carefully prepared toast. Several family members exchanged uncomfortable glances, and Aunt Karen gave me a sympathetic look. This pattern continued throughout the evening. When I helped serve the anniversary cake, Jessica loudly wondered if I had bothered to remember that Dad preferred vanilla to chocolate. When I was showing a group of relatives the garden lights I had arranged, Jessica pulled Mom away to help with a non-urgent Tyler situation. The most blatant interruption came during the scheduled time for my parents to open gifts. I had placed my photo album at the bottom of the pile, wanting it to be the final special surprise. As they worked their way through presents, Jessica continuously commented on each one. "That's from Tyler's allowance money," she announced when our parents opened the handmade card with $5 inside. "He saved for weeks because family is so important to him." Finally, they reached my gift. As Dad carefully unwrapped the album, his eyes lit up at the custom cover featuring their wedding photo. "Rachel, this looks professional," he said, opening it to reveal the carefully arranged photographic journey of their life together. Mom gasped when she saw the first page. "These are pictures I haven't seen in years. How did you find them all?" "I contacted all the relatives and your old friends," I explained. "Everyone sent photos from different eras. There are pictures from every major event in your 35 years together." As family members gathered around to see this treasure, Mom wiped away tears. "This must have taken months to create." "Just a labor of love," I said, genuinely happy to see their reaction. Dad was turning the pages carefully, pointing out memories to Mom when Jessica spoke up. "Well, some of us express love through time and presence rather than expensive gifts," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I may not have had time to create fancy scrapbooks since I'm busy raising your grandson, but we're actually here for you week after week, not just on special occasions." The room grew uncomfortably quiet. Mom looked pained and quickly tried to smooth things over. "We appreciate all our gifts and all the ways our family shows love," she said diplomatically. She caught my eye with an apologetic look and mouthed, "Thank you," for the album. Later, as guests mingled with dessert plates, Mom pulled me aside. "Your sister is just going through a difficult time," she whispered. "Can you please be patient with her today for us?" I nodded, swallowing my hurt. "Of course, Mom. This is your day. I won't cause a scene." Little did I know that the real scene was yet to come, and it wouldn't be of my making. The moment that changed everything happened during what should have been the happiest part of the celebration. My parents were sitting together on their special anniversary chairs, surrounded by loved ones, admiring the photo album I had created. The room was filled with warmth and laughter, as family members shared memories inspired by the photographs. Even Jessica seemed momentarily caught up in the nostalgia, as Dad recounted stories from our childhood. I was standing near my parents feeling a rare moment of peace, despite the earlier tension when I noticed Tyler approaching with a large glass of dark soda. The red plastic cup looked enormous in his small hands, and he was walking with unusual determination, his eyes fixed on me. Something about his expression made me uneasy. But before I could react, Tyler stopped directly in front of me. With deliberate slowness, he tipped the cup and poured the entire contents onto my lap. The cold liquid soaked through my dress, immediately splashing onto my legs and the floor. The shock of the cold drink was nothing compared to what came next. Tyler looked up at me with rehearsed defiance and announced in a clear, loud voice, "Mom said you don't belong here. This is a real family party." The room fell instantly silent. Every conversation stopped mid-sentence as all eyes turned toward the scene. I sat frozen soda dripping from my ruined dress, staring at my 7-year-old nephew in disbelief. In the terrible silence that followed, Jessica's laugh rang out. Not a nervous laugh of embarrassment, but a short, satisfied sound quickly stifled. She then adopted a look of mock horror. "Tyler? That's not nice," she scolded, but her tone lacked any genuine disapproval. "That's not exactly what Mommy said." Her words confirmed what I had instantly suspected. This wasn't a child's impulsive action, but a planted attack. My nephew had been weaponized against me. Mom gasped and stood up. "Jessica, what is going on?" Dad looked thunderstruck, his celebration forgotten as he reached for napkins to help me. Brian, Tyler's father, turned bright red. "Tyler, come here right now," he said, his voice tight with embarrassment. He grabbed Tyler's arm perhaps more roughly than he intended, then immediately softened. "We don't do things like that. Ever." The room erupted into chaotic responses. Relatives murmured in shock. Aunt Karen moved swiftly to my side with more napkins. Michael stood protectively next to me, his expression a mixture of anger and concern. "I need to clean up," I managed to say, my voice surprisingly steady despite the humiliation and hurt coursing through me. I walked carefully toward the bathroom, sticky soda making my steps awkward, intensely aware of every eye in the room following me. Once inside the bathroom, I locked the door and finally allowed tears to fall. My beautiful dress, chosen specifically for this special occasion, was ruined, but the fabric damage was nothing compared to the public humiliation and the knowledge that my sister had deliberately used her child to hurt me. I could hear raised voices from the party, though not clearly enough to make out what was being said. After washing my hands and face, I used damp towels to clean the worst of the soda from my dress and legs. The dark stain spread across the light fabric like a physical manifestation of the pain in my chest. A soft knock came at the door. "Rachel, it's Michael. Are you okay?" I opened the door slightly to see my boyfriend's concerned face. "I told Jessica exactly what I think of her," he said quietly. "Maybe I shouldn't have, but someone needed to say it." "What did she do?" I asked. "Denied everything at first, then said Tyler misunderstood her. Nobody's buying it. Your Aunt Karen is furious and your parents look devastated." I took a deep breath. "I need to go back out there." Michael nodded. "Whatever you want to do, I'm with you. If you want to leave, we can go right now." I considered this escape route for a moment, imagining the relief of leaving the tension behind. But something stronger surfaced within me. A realization that running away would only reinforce Jessica's narrative and leave my parents' celebration in ruins. "No," I said firmly. "I'm not going to let her win by driving me away. This ends now." When I returned to the party, conversation stopped again. Jessica was seated with Tyler on her lap, playing the concerned mother, while Brian stood uncomfortably beside them. My parents had moved from their celebration seats and were talking intensely with Aunt Karen. As I walked back into the room, still damp but composed, I felt a strange calm settle over me. Years of accommodating Jessica's behavior, of smoothing things over to keep the peace, had led to this moment. It was time to address the real problem. I stood in the center of the room, and all eyes turned to me. It was time to respond. Standing there in my soda-stained dress, I felt an unexpected surge of clarity. All these years I had been walking on eggshells around Jessica, making excuses for her behavior, and allowing her jealousy to control family dynamics. In trying to keep the peace, I had actually enabled her increasingly toxic actions. "I think we need to talk about what just happened," I said, my voice calm but firm. The room was completely silent now, with every family member watching intently. Jessica shifted in her seat, pulling Tyler closer like a shield. "What happened is my son had an accident," Jessica said quickly. "He's already been disciplined and you're making a huge scene over spilled soda." I shook my head slowly. "This wasn't an accident, Jessica. Tyler just repeated what you told him, that I don't belong in this family." "He misunderstood," Jessica insisted, her voice rising defensively. "Children exaggerate things. You're overreacting because your dress got wet." I took a deep breath consciously, keeping my voice level. "This isn't about my dress. It's about a pattern that's gone on for too long. Tyler is a child who trusts his mother. He wouldn't say something like that unless he heard it from you." Jessica's face flushed. "So now I'm a liar. Classic Rachel, always perfect, always making me look like the bad one." "This isn't about making anyone look bad," I continued, maintaining my composure. "It's about acknowledging a problem so we can finally address it. For years, you've treated me like competition instead of your sister. You've undermined my relationships with our parents, with Tyler, with extended family. Today, it crossed a line." Jessica started to interrupt, but I held up my hand. "Please let me finish. I've spent years trying to understand your perspective, making allowances, walking on eggshells to avoid triggering your jealousy. But using your son to attack me is unacceptable." Tyler looked confused, glancing between his mother and me. "Mom said Aunt Rachel only comes to show off," he said in the innocent honesty of a child. "She said you think you're better than us." Jessica quickly shushed him, but the damage was done. Several family members exchanged knowing glances. This confirmed what many had suspected, but never openly acknowledged. I pulled my phone from my purse and opened my text messages. "2 weeks ago, when Mom asked us both to help with anniversary preparations, you sent me this." I turned the screen toward my parents. "It says, 'Don't bother coming early to help. Nobody wants your perfect party planning taking over what should be a normal family celebration.'" Mom's eyes widened as she read the text Jessica had sent me. Dad looked between his daughters with growing understanding. "And last Christmas," I continued, When I tried to coordinate gift giving for mom and dad with you, you told me to do whatever I wanted because, quote, you always have to outshine everyone anyway. Aunt Karen stepped forward. Jessica, we've all noticed how you treat Rachel. The constant little digs, the eye rolling when she speaks the way you interrupt her. Your jealousy has been obvious to everyone for years. This is ridiculous, Jessica protested, but her voice wavered. You're all ganging up on me because Rachel's always been the favorite. Several family members spoke at once, recounting instances of Jessica's behavior they had witnessed. Cousin Emma mentioned how Jessica had tried to convince her not to hire me for her bakery logo. Uncle James recalled Jessica deliberately excluding me from a family fishing trip by giving me the wrong date. As these stories emerged, Jessica's face cycled through anger, defensiveness, and finally a trapped expression. Brian was staring at his wife with dawning realization, as if pieces of a puzzle were finally coming together for him. Jessica, my father said gently, no one is ganging up on you. But we can't ignore what happened today. Using Tyler to hurt your sister crosses a line that should never be crossed. I didn't tell him to pour soda on her, Jessica insisted, though her voice lacked conviction. Tyler, still on Jessica's lap, looked increasingly confused and upset. But you said to show Aunt Rachel that our family was fine before she came, he said, his child's voice cutting through the tension. You said I should remind her. Jessica quickly tried to cover. That's not what I meant, sweetie. But Tyler, in the direct way of children, continued. You told me to wait until everyone was looking and then say the words you practiced with me. His lower lip trembled. Did I do it wrong? Are you mad at me now? The raw honesty of a child laid bare what Jessica could no longer deny. Brian reached for his son. Come here, buddy, he said, lifting Tyler from Jessica's lap. You're not in trouble. This is a grown-up problem. Jessica's face crumpled momentarily before she rallied with her most reliable tactic, turning the narrative to make herself the victim. I can't believe my own family is humiliating me like this, she said, tears suddenly streaming down her face. On Mom and Dad's anniversary, Rachel ruins everything with her perfect life and her perfect boyfriend and her perfect career. Everyone always takes her side. My mother stepped forward, her expression pained but resolute. Jessica, that's enough. No one is taking sides. But what happened today was wrong, and pretending otherwise won't help anyone. Of course you defend her, Jessica snapped, standing abruptly. You always have. Well, I'm not going to sit here and be attacked. She grabbed her purse and looked at Brian. We're leaving now. Brian hesitated, looking between his wife and his son, who was now being comforted by my father. Jess, maybe we should talk this through. Fine, stay here with them if that's what you want, Jessica retorted. She stormed toward the door, pausing only to add, Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad. Sorry, my truth-telling ruined the perfect party. The door slammed behind her. After an awkward moment, Brian apologized quietly to my parents. I'll take Tyler home. I'm so sorry about this. He gave me a look of genuine regret before gathering Tyler and their belongings and following Jessica. In their wake, the anniversary party atmosphere had been thoroughly shattered. Family members stood in small clusters, speaking in hushed tones. My parents looked shell-shocked, their celebration overshadowed by the ugly scene. I felt simultaneously validated that Jessica's behavior had finally been exposed and devastated that it had happened in such a painful public way on my parents' special day. Aunt Karen broke the uncomfortable silence. Well, she said with forced brightness, why don't we all help clean up and then give Maria and John some space? It's been quite an evening. As guests began to gather their things and help restore order to the disrupted party, I wondered what this confrontation would mean for our family going forward. The truth was finally out, but at what cost? The days following my parents' anniversary party were tense and complicated. The celebration that was meant to honor their 35 years of marriage had instead exposed a family fracture that could no longer be ignored. The morning after, I called my parents to check on them and apologize for the disruption. You have nothing to apologize for, Dad said firmly. Your mother and I have been talking all night. We should have addressed this years ago. Mom got on the phone, her voice tired but resolute. We love both our daughters equally, Rachel. But we've been enabling Jessica's behavior out of fear of conflict. That ends now. Their support was comforting, but I still felt the weight of responsibility for the public confrontation. I never wanted it to happen like this, I admitted, especially not on your anniversary. Sometimes things need to break open before they can heal, Mom replied. We'll find a way through this as a family. The extended family dynamics proved more complicated. Some relatives reached out with messages of support, having witnessed Jessica's behavior for years. Aunt Karen called to check on me the next day. I've watched this situation fester since you were children, she said. Your parents always hoped Jessica would outgrow her jealousy, but by not addressing it, they allowed it to become entrenched. What happened was painful, but necessary. Other family members, however, seemed uncomfortable with the open conflict. Jessica's godmother, who had always been especially close to her, sent me a message suggesting I should apologize to keep the family peace. Jessica has always been more sensitive, she wrote. As the stronger sister, couldn't you be the bigger person? This was the exact dynamic that had allowed the problem to grow. The expectation that I would continually accommodate Jessica's behavior because I was supposedly stronger or had it easier. For once, I declined to take on that role. I appreciate your concern, I replied. But this situation needs real resolution, not another surface-level reconciliation that leaves the underlying issues untouched. And Michael was my steadfast support throughout these difficult days. You finally stood up for yourself, he reminded me when I worried about the family fallout. That's not something to regret. The most painful ripple effects came through social media, where Jessica began crafting her version of events. She posted vague statements about toxic family members and protecting her child from negative influences. Without naming names, she painted herself as the victim of family bullying, receiving sympathy from friends who didn't know the full story. Should I respond? I asked Michael one evening, showing him Jessica's latest post, implying I had overreacted to an innocent child's accident. She's fishing for validation from people who weren't there, he said wisely. Engaging will only feed the drama. The people who matter know the truth. 4 days after the party, I received an unexpected message from Brian. It was brief but illuminating. Tyler's been asking about you. He's confused and feels guilty. He says he didn't mean to make you sad. Jessica doesn't know I'm contacting you. This message broke my heart. My nephew was caught in the middle of adult conflict being used as a pawn in his mother's game. I carefully composed a reply. Please tell Tyler I'm not upset with him at all. I love him very much and none of this is his fault. I'm sad that I haven't been able to spend more time with him, but that has nothing to do with anything he did wrong. Brian's response came quickly. Thanks, I'll tell him. Things are complicated here right now. I've never seen Jessica's behavior through this lens before, but now I can't unsee it. My parents attempted to mediate, inviting Jessica and Brian over to discuss what had happened. According to Mom, Jessica initially refused, then agreed, but spent the entire conversation deflecting and accusing them of always favoring me. She demanded they choose sides and became upset when they wouldn't condemn me for humiliating her in front of the family. It didn't go well, Mom admitted when she called afterward. But it's a starting point. Your father and I made it clear that we love Jessica, but we won't pretend her behavior was acceptable. How did Brian react? I asked, curious about his perspective now that he seemed to be seeing Jessica's patterns more clearly. Mostly quiet, Mom said. But he did disagree with Jessica about what happened with Tyler. He said it was clearly planned, not a misunderstanding. That caused quite an argument between them. This conversation reinforced what I was beginning to accept, that my relationship with Jessica needed significant boundaries, at least for now. I couldn't continue the cycle of appeasement and pretending. It wasn't healthy for anyone, especially not for Tyler. After 2 weeks of processing, reflecting, and consulting with friends whose wisdom I trusted, I made a difficult decision. I would step back from trying to maintain a relationship with Jessica until she was willing to acknowledge her behavior and work toward genuine change. I would remain open to my nephew and to future reconciliation, but I would no longer enable the toxic dynamic by pretending everything was fine. I wrote a letter to my parents explaining my decision, emphasizing that I wasn't asking them to choose between their daughters. I just need to protect myself from Jessica's hostility for a while, I explained. I hope someday we can rebuild our relationship on healthier terms, but that can't happen until the real issues are acknowledged. The emotional toll of this family fracture affected every aspect of my life. I found myself distracted at work, replaying confrontations in my mind, wondering if I could have handled things differently. My sleep was disrupted by dreams of family conflict. Even my relationship with Michael felt the strain as I processed my complicated emotions. Maybe we should talk to someone professional about this, Michael suggested gently one evening when he found me crying over old family photos. This is a lot to handle alone. His suggestion led to one of the most helpful steps in my healing journey. Aunt Karen had mentioned family therapy during the aftermath of the party, and now I decided to try individual therapy for myself. I needed objective guidance to process 32 years of complicated family dynamics and to find a healthy path forward. As I took this step toward personal healing, I had no way of knowing that the family fracture, painful as it was, would eventually open the door to a more honest and healthier relationship with everyone involved, even eventually with Jessica. 6 months passed before our fractured family began to find its way toward healing. During that time, I immersed myself in therapy, learning to establish healthy boundaries while processing the complex emotions surrounding my relationship with Jessica. My therapist helped me understand that Jessica's jealousy stemmed from her own insecurities, not from any actual competition I had created. "You're not responsible for managing her emotions," my therapist reminded me regularly. "That's been the pattern in your family. Everyone walking on eggshells around Jessica's feelings while ignoring yours." This insight helped me navigate the difficult conversations with my parents that followed our family rupture. Initially, they had tried to mediate, hoping for a quick reconciliation that would restore family harmony. But as weeks passed, they began to have deeper realizations about their own role in the dysfunctional pattern. "We had a long talk with Jessica yesterday," Mom told me during our weekly call about 3 months after the anniversary incident. "We told her we love her unconditionally, but we can't continue pretending her behavior toward you is acceptable." "How did she take it?" I asked, bracing myself for the fallout. "Not well at first," Mom admitted. "She accused us of taking sides, but your father was very firm. He told her that loving her doesn't mean approving of how she treats her sister." Dad got on the phone. "I said some things I should have said years ago, Rachel. I told Jessica that her perception that we favor you has never been true, but her behavior toward you has been genuinely unfair. I said we won't be attending any family gatherings where you're deliberately excluded, and we expect her to work on this issue if she wants a healthy relationship with all of us." This boundary setting was new territory for my parents, who had always tried to keep everyone happy without addressing the underlying issues. I felt proud of them for taking this difficult but necessary step. Around the 4-month mark, I received another message from Brian. This one was more substantial than his previous communications. "Tyler asks about you all the time. He has your dinosaur books on his nightstand still. Jessica and I have been having serious discussions about everything that happened. I didn't realize how much she was poisoning Tyler against you. I should have paid more attention. He's in therapy now. We all are, actually. Would you be open to seeing him sometime, maybe with me present? No pressure, just asking." This message brought tears to my eyes. I missed my nephew terribly and hated the thought that he might believe I had abandoned him or was angry with him. After consulting with my own therapist about how to proceed in a healthy way, I agreed to meet Tyler and Brian at a neutral location, a dinosaur exhibit at the Natural History Museum. The reunion with Tyler was both joyful and healing. At first, he seemed shy, hiding behind his father's legs. But when I presented him with a new book about marine dinosaurs, his enthusiasm broke through the awkwardness. "Did you know Mosasaurus wasn't actually a dinosaur?" he informed me seriously as we walked through the exhibit. "It was a marine reptile that lived during the dinosaur times. That's different." His innocent correction made me laugh, and just like that, our connection was reestablished. As Tyler ran ahead to examine a massive Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton, Brian spoke quietly. "Jessica doesn't know we're here today. I'm not trying to go behind her back long term, but I needed to start somewhere. Tyler deserves a relationship with his aunt. And honestly, I needed to apologize to you face to face. I saw what was happening and did nothing." "You're doing something now," I pointed out. "That's what matters." Brian nodded. Jessica and I are in marriage counseling. It's been eye-opening. Her jealousy issues go deeper than just you. They affect how she sees herself, our marriage, everything. She's not ready to admit all of it yet, but she's starting to see the pattern. This conversation gave me cautious hope. Not for an immediate reconciliation with Jessica, that would take time and genuine change, but for a future where our family might heal. 5 months after the anniversary incident, my parents decided to have a small private re-celebration of their 35th anniversary. The first one ended so painfully, Mom explained. We want a do-over with just the immediate family. This presented an obvious challenge. Could Jessica and I be in the same room together without reopening wounds? After much discussion and preparation, including separate conversations between my parents and each of us about expectations and boundaries, we agreed to try. The reunion was tense but civil. Jessica arrived with Brian and Tyler hanging back slightly at the door before our mother enveloped her in a hug. When she saw me, she gave a tight nod but didn't approach. Tyler, however, ran straight to me. Aunt Rachel, Dad took me to see the dinosaurs and you were there. Remember? This innocent announcement created an awkward moment as Jessica realized Brian had arranged a meeting without telling her. To my surprise, she didn't make a scene. She simply pressed her lips together and busied herself arranging Tyler's jacket on a hook. Throughout the small celebration dinner, we maintained a careful distance, interacting primarily through other family members. But I noticed Jessica watching thoughtfully when Tyler enthusiastically showed me his new dinosaur drawings, and she didn't interfere when he wanted to sit beside me at the table. As we were leaving, Jessica approached me directly for the first time. "Tyler's missed you," she said, her voice carefully controlled. "Maybe you could come to his school play next month. He's going to be a stegosaurus." It wasn't an apology or even a direct acknowledgement of the issues between us, but it was an opening, a small crack in the wall of hostility she had built. "I'd like that," I replied simply. "Thank you for letting me know about it." During this period of cautious family rebuilding, my relationship with Michael deepened. Having weathered this family storm together, we understood each other's capacity for loyalty and resilience in new ways. 6 months after the anniversary incident, during a weekend hike to our favorite mountain viewpoint, Michael proposed. "I love how you've handled this past year," he said as I stared in surprise at the ring. "You stood up for yourself but never closed the door on reconciliation. You're the strongest person I know, Rachel, and I want to spend my life with you." When I called my parents with the news, their joy was immediate and genuine. Even more surprisingly, when they told Jessica, she sent me a text, "Congratulations, Tyler will be excited to be in another special event." It wasn't effusive, but it was free from the passive-aggressive undertones that had characterized our interactions for years. The family therapy that Aunt Karen had suggested after the anniversary disaster eventually became a reality, though not all at once. First, my parents and I attended several sessions together, working through our patterns and establishing healthier communication. Later, Jessica agreed to join for limited sessions, initially presenting a defensive front, but gradually becoming more receptive to the therapist's insights. During one particularly breakthrough session, Jessica finally acknowledged the core of her jealousy. "I always felt like I had to work twice as hard for half the recognition," she admitted, not looking at any of us. "Rachel seemed to do everything effortlessly while I struggled. It wasn't fair, and I hated feeling like the family disappointment." "I never saw you as a disappointment," Dad said, his voice thick with emotion. "Never. But I can see how my pride in Rachel's achievements might have made you feel that way if you were already comparing yourself." This moment didn't instantly repair our relationship, but it opened a door to understanding that had been firmly closed for decades. The most healing moment with Tyler came unexpectedly at a small family gathering for my parents' 66th birthday. Tyler approached me solemnly, holding a small wrapped package. "I made this for you," he said, pushing it into my hands, "to say sorry for the soda." Inside was a clay dinosaur figure he had clearly crafted himself, painted in bright colors with uneven strokes. Attached was a card that read, "To Aunt Rachel, you are part of our family. Love, Tyler." I knelt down to his level, fighting back tears. "Thank you, Tyler. This is the best present I've ever received." Over his shoulder, I caught Jessica watching us. For once, there was no hostility in her expression, just a complicated mixture of emotions that included what might have been regret. Our journey toward healing wasn't linear or complete. Jessica and I would likely never have the close sisterly relationship I had once hoped for, but we were learning to coexist with respect and appropriate boundaries. She was working on her insecurities, and I was learning that maintaining healthy boundaries didn't mean closing the door on family. The painful rupture that began at my parents' anniversary party had forced our family to confront long-standing issues we had all been avoiding. Through that difficult process, we were building something new, a family dynamic based on honesty, rather than pretense on respect, rather than fear of conflict. As my therapist had wisely noted, sometimes belonging to a family isn't about perfect harmony. It's about having enough respect for each other to be honest, to set boundaries, and to allow room for growth and change. Those words resonated deeply with me now. The soda incident that had seemed so catastrophic had ultimately led to necessary change. In standing up for myself that day, I had broken a harmful pattern and opened the door to a healthier future for all of us, especially for Tyler, who would now grow up in a family where honest communication was valued over false peace. Have you ever had to stand up to a family member who consistently treated you poorly? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are with the people closest to us, but as I learned, they're often the most necessary. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Thank you for listening. And remember that belonging to a family should never come at the cost of your self-respect.